Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for stage 12 of the Tour de France. A pretty exciting stage, actually. You might not think that when you look at the profile from Circuit Nevers-Montnicourt. I feel like, did a race finish there in 2023?
I don't know. I really don't.
23. Let me check.
I'll let you check.
I don't know. I don't care. Anyway,
I feel like Wout won there.
Who?
I feel like Wout van Aert won a stage in Chalon-sur-Saône.
Yeah, or Jacobsen. I can't remember.
I'm wrong. It's Groenewegen in 2019.
Okay. Finishing in Chalon-sur-Saône, 179 kilometers long. We have 3 Category 4 climbs, an intermediate sprint 45 k's in. It's light, hilly terrain. It's not absolutely flat. We do have 2 climbs with 40 k's to go and with about 25 k's to go, but they're not hard. We're talking 2.5 k's, 4% power climbs, and yeah, they're not more than 5% even for a k or something. So it looks like a sprint stage. NSN, Alpecin, Quickstep will desperately want a sprint. Trek, we said last night, should switch into defensive mode, not wanting a sprint.
Yeah, so on the road, offensive mode, right? Because
yes,
defensive mode when it comes to green means that you're trying to take the sprint away from the actual pure sprinters, because Pedersen is in the pole position now. This is a 70-point sprint. So this is where a Binyam, a Philipsen is most likely to take points on Pedersen if this goes to a sprint. So like you say, I was expecting them to be pretty vicious in the early break formation, but turns out they were pretty vicious in a different moment of the race that I maybe wasn't expecting. Is that fair?
The intermediate sprint?
Well, no, later.
Oh, yeah. I was like, are we getting to the sprint deviation already?
Not yet. Weisstoffer time first.
Break formation was really aggressive. Total, Ineos, EF. And I think my MVP of today, by far the best rider on course today is Valentin Paris-Pantra. By far. He's the reason Merlier is able to sprint today, and what he's able to do at his size on this flat terrain, I actually don't know how he's physically able to do it. There is no other rider, maybe in the history of cycling, that can do what Valentin Paris-Pantra does on this flat terrain. He shuts down riders like Mads Pedersen on 1 to 2% power, like highway uphills. He shuts gaps when he's in the wind by sprinting back to their wheel and then doesn't get blown off the wheel. I've never seen anything like it. Someone Ivan Sosa size doing this.
That's crazy. I was shocked. And not just in break formation, but also in the latter parts of the race, which we'll get to. But I was kind of surprised that while the breakaway formation was aggressive, that we initially only had a one-man breakaway, Baptiste Weisstoffer for Lotto. So he was once again in his similar formation as he was maybe a week ago in a break stage where he was solo. But that also meant that there's more points available at the intermediate sprint. And today, the intermediate sprint was not without controversy, I think it's fair to say, because Trek was having a lead out. Pedersen was sprinting from the front in that sprint. He was doing so, but he started off in the middle and deviates towards the barriers. And as that happens, Philipsen tries to come from third position, if I recall, into the right, tries to go to the right of Pedersen, and is trying to pass Pedersen barrier side, but Pedersen closes the gap, so endangers or obstructs. To be clear, the deviation rule is as followed. You're allowed to deviate unless you endanger a rider or obstruct a rider. Now, the main deviation rule says endanger. The actual penalization rule later in the rulebook says obstruction as well. So it's a little bit confusion, but it's also very much up to interpretation. Was this for you enough to classify as endangerment or as obstruction?
Yeah, it's obviously obstruction. I mean, this move has been a relegation all year. They've been quite up to the Tour de France, up to this race. This rule has been applied pretty consistently. Me and you retired from sprint deviation police. Then all of a sudden we get to Tour de France week 1, and Philipsen's closing a guy to the barriers.
Gaviria.
And Gaviria, and nothing happens. And then they did him yesterday. We didn't finish yesterday to update everybody. He got relegated for like 2 sort of what we would call race incidents.
Yeah.
and it looked like a very harsh relegation, probably because I would say there was a microscope on him after somehow he didn't get relegated for the first sprint, and then he got reinstated, probably correctly, which I've never seen before, by the way.
I like it. It's weird because I think I've seen a lot of criticism, especially in Belgium, that, how can they get the wrong decision in the first place? I actually do applaud the fact that they put it right, because that is behavior that I've not seen when it comes to the UCI a lot. What do you mean?
Well, like, the sprint happens.
Yeah.
The commissaires are watching the images after in the truck, and they relegate him. How do you...
I assume that there's an appeal from Alpecin in that situation. Probably Alpecin guy complains to UCI commissaire. UCI commissaires come together and look at it again, and they give in that they made the wrong decision. That's my assumption of what happened. It's impossible to know because the process is not transparent or documented well in the actual post-race press release. It will only say whether a rider is relegated or not relegated. I don't think we'll have in-depth information of why it was reinstated, etc. We won't see that. But I do like that they reinstated him afterwards. And I want to make it clear, just because Philipsen needed to be relegated on stage 5 doesn't mean you can over-penalize him yesterday, for example.
Exactly.
Every sprint deviation should be seen as their action in a bubble. And if you want to penalize a rider who does relegations multiple times or does harsh stuff in sprints multiple times, that is exactly what the yellow card system is for. And if that yellow card system is not enough to penalize multiple movements like Van Poppel last year, then that's a problem with the yellow card system, which I have issues with. I don't think it's harsh enough, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah, except if you're like a French sprinter of confidence, and then if you do anything wrong, you get 3 months. So, Pedersen,
Buhani, man.
I mean, he also did stuff. Yeah, of course, he did stuff wrong, but
especially at the start of his career, he was an actual boxer in the sprints.
I'm not saying he's a saint, but
in the second half of his career, he was overly judged by UCI commissaires and received penalties when it clearly didn't need to happen.
And his peers, and that's, I think, what changes this. So Pedersen, the bizarre thing is, he goes literally from the left side of the road to the right side of the road, completely blocks Philipsen, and Philipsen has to stop. Philipsen then doesn't protest and then gives Pedersen a high five after. I think Philipsen's reaction saves Pedersen here. If he's thrown his hands up and went a little bit more forward than braked, Pedersen probably gets done.
But Philipsen is also not stupid. If he starts complaining about Pedersen today, one, the entire internet will laugh at him for doing so. Secondly, he's going to do similar things in the future. We know that. And that's the case for a lot of sprinters. A lot of sprinters won't complain because they know they might be in that same situation, let's say 2 weeks from now or a year from now. And they then hope that the other sprinter doesn't complain in similar fashion so that they don't get penalized as a consequence. But I agree that Pedersen, according to the rules, would get a relegation here. That said, I do still have an issue with the rule itself. I think obstruction is way too vague. I think endangerment is way too vague. I think that rule is too vague and too much up to interpretation, to the point that I could relegate Olaf Kooi yesterday for deviating at the front of the peloton, in doing so indirectly causing Merlier to be boxed in 5 places later. It falls under obstruction. So it's a very exaggerated example, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, Cavendish, his sprint went on a starting to break the record. He goes from the right to the left.
Yep.
And then Philipsen follows him. There's a wave effect, and then the whole bunch crashed, right? So anyway, that would have been huge. If Pedersen gets done there, he loses, I don't know how many points, 15, 17.
Yep.
And that would be half his current lead. His current lead halved over Binny. That would have been a huge difference.
His post-stage lead?
Yeah, his post-stage lead. His post-stage lead is 40 points now. It would have been, say, 25.
Yeah.
Something like that. So, pretty impactful decision. And where's Canter? Canter's out of it. Canter's gone. He's not been good enough in the last sprints. It's between Binny, Philipsen, and Pedersen. Anyway, why doesn't Veestroffer stop? That's what I always... It's the same with Kampenaert's break with Pedersen. Veestroffer's break here. if like Lotto are not here for break exposure, right? A la they actually want to
Wait.
play for a stage win.
I'm going to call you out, but first I need a question for you. You've got the Roodhof network. What would you call the sprinters network? Like the sprinters teams that are overly dissing on breakaways for making their life harder. What do we call that?
Well, it's not the green network because Pedersen's they're trying to make a break go.
Exactly.
I don't know. I have to workshop it.
Yeah, well, let's workshop it. But I think you belong to that group right now because I think Weisschaffer can do whatever he wants. He doesn't need to.
He should dangle 10 seconds in front of the peloton
and wait for someone to bridge.
Yeah.
Is your storyline there? He does end up in the breakaway because he's ahead. There's 3 riders, I think, that bridge after the intermediate sprint. Ewan Kosciu from Groupama, Caruso from Bahrain, and Verchet from Total, if I recall correctly. So that's a 4-man breakaway up the road. I can talk about them for a year, but at the end of the day, they were irrelevant to the rest of the stage. So I'll go ahead and skip towards 2 events that happened before the sprint start. We have mechanicals for Vingegaard and Philipsen. Vingegaard was a fun moment where I think Kampenaerts, someone else, and then Vingegaard were trying to come back behind the Bahrain car to the back of the peloton. And Kampenaerts was sitting right behind the car, so was easily in the draft. Then he had Vingegaard like 3 meters further and was struggling to close the gap to Kampenaerts. Funny moment. So that's how impactful draft is. That's a perfect example. Now, on the other end, I also saw a Philipsen mechanical. I don't know when, maybe 40 kilometers to go. The notable thing here was that there were multiple moments where the Alpecin car was opening his window and like putting a bottle out. Maybe it's to give a bottle. Maybe it's to give a sticky bottle. And it was extremely noticeable for me that I think Philipsen was so aware that the cameras were there right next to him that he just didn't take that bottle. He was like, if I'm sticky bottling right here on camera, it won't be a good look. I think he was aware that the cameras were there. Anyway, it's pure speculation on my end, but he came back smoothly and we went to the last 35 kilometers and it wasn't just bread and butter towards a sprint. Don't know if that's a statement at all, an expression, but I'll say that anyway, because there was one team you mentioned earlier, Patrick, that didn't really won the sprint.
Little Trek were really active. There was a climb. It wasn't just Trek. I can't remember who jumped first. Maybe it was them. There's 2 hills, and Simmons goes full gas. He creates this crazy split. It catches everyone napping, and he's so strong that he creates this mega rouleur, like mutant rouleur move that even though it has Astana, NSN, and Quickstep in it, they're powerless to stop it.
By the way, while he was doing that hard effort on that climb to create this breakaway, I swear he puts his hand out to high five someone by the side of the road. Was that his dad? Because the commentator said so. He had a giant beard, so
yeah, I think it would look like the guy who was his soigneur at the American Natty Champs on the YouTube stream. I watched at the finish, so I think it might be his dad. Had an American flag, of course. Simmons a fait le check. In French, it's a check, Benji. A high five. Did you know
I think we've had this discussion before, but was this attack by Simmons the, let's keep it French, the money moment?
It was the money moment. And I thought this was the move. I thought we were going to have, this was like when all the Belgian rouleurs, because that network actually exists. There's like a Belgian cabal of rouleurs and they organize things in races together. And
rule number 1 of the Belgian cabal is don't talk about the Belgian cabal. So I'm afraid that this discussion is solely yours here.
Yeah. And it's got Ganna, Schmidt, Hagenez.
There's a list right here in the notes. A gigantic list of riders. Hagenez, Watzek, Steinhauser, Hohle, Ballerini, Rob Stannard, Ganna, Marsman, Schmidt, Aski, Bergmus, Kirsch, Wright, and Robedont. Now, I want you to indicate which riders want this break to go versus which ones clearly didn't but should have wanted this break to go versus which riders that were just sitting on and were doing the right thing doing so.
So Trek are going full with Watzek, Ganna's going all in, Schmidt's going all in. They're the main 3. Fred Wright as well. Kirsch is pulling a bit. We have Aski sitting on for Binny. Fair enough. I think that's fair enough, to be honest.
Yeah.
Kirsch, I couldn't tell. Marsman sitting on for Philipsen. I think that's fair enough. Ballerini sitting on for Cantor.
Yeah. No.
I kind of would. Cantor Green's gone, right?
Yeah, I would go with Ballerini.
I would pull with Ballerini. I think he actually did take a few pulls. I think he actually did roll through. So that's fair. Steinhauser's pulling for EF. Hagenes doesn't pull for Visma. I would say this was maybe Visma's one of their biggest chances to win a road stage.
Well, it's still a group of 14, but I still think personal Hagenes should pull because there's no other objective here for Visma outside of keeping Jonas safe in the peloton. I would argue that if this break goes to a minute and becomes a stage-winning group, then it might be safer in the peloton. So
exactly,
I would have liked to see Personal Hagenes pull. I also Robert Dont was also sitting on and actually
he was blocking, dude.
Like, we're talking about moving to the front, and the second it's your turn, not taking over and going back to the back. That was behavior, if I've ever seen it. And that's where Pavel Bittner, who he's got one top 10, I think, in his store. Now, I do think there's an argument to be made that Robert Dont is like not the rider for picnic that you want to have in this move. But on the other hand, I don't think Bittner's chances are much bigger.
I don't agree. I think Robert Dont can sneak a top 5 just sprinting in the wheels.
Okay.
Like, he came like 10th, 12th in some Dunkirk stages.
Fair.
Like, he can sort of sprint in the wheels. It's a group of 13, 14. So, yeah, I was like Hagenes. You can have the debate. You know, it would have been nice to see him ride, to be honest. Like,
should have ridden.
Yeah, I mean,
no debate.
It's a break that UAE are kind of letting you in. So if you're Visma, you got to take them with both hands.
Happens once per Tour de France these days.
Are UAE going to let Visma in the break tomorrow?
I don't know about that.
We'll talk about win tomorrow. So you got, Hagenes probably should ride. At least he's sitting at the back. Dont is blocking. It's like, come on.
And to be honest, I was looking at the peloton and Quickstep was starting to ride, but I also wasn't feeling like it's a tempo that is unbeatable. So I'm completely confident that if this group cooperates, that the peloton does not win today. But the cooperation was far to find.
If you're NSN, I think at a certain point you would not chase either. I think if Aski's allowed a complete free ride with this group and it's a small group sprint, Aski's my favorite from this group.
In a group like this, I'd say you never know. Because it depends on how big the gap becomes and whether we see moves from this group instead of just a sprint out of the people that are here. So I think Bergmus is also pretty fast, by the way. Like, I think there's a couple fast guys in this group. So
Ballerini's quick, yeah. So
I wouldn't know who to go for out of these riders.
But it was a shame to see that move come back, actually. Visma then go over the top of the climb. They're going full into the descent. And then we go into another kicker. Simmons goes again. Schelmoser attacks. So we have like Schelmoser, Schoens rolling attacks. We get down the end of the descent into an open section. And then, Visma just go to the back.
I won't skip that phase so quickly. In this phase of that KOM, we see Visma and UAE both closing moves.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But then they just go to the back.
Think about why.
They're closing moves, and it's also like it's Cofidis, it's Total riders.
I like it because I picked Merlier for this stage, but as like an actual cycling fan viewing experience without biased picks, then I don't see any value for Visma and UAE to close them down.
We needed one more hill here. We needed a 1.3k 7% hill. 12 Ks from the finish today. That's what we needed.
The GC rider might have gone.
Maybe.
Schelmoser. We should actually count him.
He would have gone. I mean, if he's going here, he would have gone. So then, there's all these attacks. Pedersen starts attacking, which, I don't know, is it crazy or is it...
I think it's low-key crazy. I think
at this point, it's not happening after the hills anymore.
I'm completely on board with the idea of Little Trek attacking on the stage to try and make sure a breakaway wins the stage, to make it so that the the difference between the points that Pedersen can score at the finish versus a Philipsen and Binyam is lower. Because the lower you get in the top 20, the lower the gaps in between the spots are, is what I'm trying to convey. That is what they're trying to do here. And I think that's a great plan. Maybe one Pedersen move is fine, but it attacks 3 times in the span of 5 kilometers. And even Gaviria and Philipsen start following moves. And Philipsen even took a relay in that first Pedersen attack. So I did not expect this at all. Merlier was mid-pack. I was trying to read whether he was gassed or not, because yesterday in the sprint he was boxed in. Some people said he didn't look great. I don't know, it's also the second week in a Grand Tour where Merlier is usually the first week guy. I didn't know what to expect, but I had to back up my guy, and he was in a good position. Well, he was not in good position, I'm lying. He was mid-pack. But for me, the Pedersen attacks were a bit too much for his own benefit. Because he's not just the guy that is attacking 3 times here, he's also the guy that then spends the last 7 kilometers positioned in like the top 5 of the peloton. In doing so, probably spending quite a bit of energy just keeping that position, right?
I think, yeah, the first attack's all right because he did it through a town and Armirel nearly dropped the wheel, but the other ones on the flat probably wasn't happening. And does it cost him positions in the final sprint? Hard to say, really. I mean, he's a classic sprinter. He's so strong. The problem's not really the peak watts he's doing in the final. It's his positioning. But yeah, it was going down to a sprint. You have to give credit, to be honest, to NSN, Alpecin, and particularly Quickstep. Again, my MVPs are Valentin Peripancha and Marco Frigo and Aski. They were unbelievably good today. And but we're going to a sprint. We hit the 5K rule, no issues. Alpecin line up deep. They're going to do their full classic lead out from the back. They find the space on the left-hand side. Actually, I'm doing it from memory. Let me bring it up. But they find the space on the left-hand side, and they looked. I honestly, at 1K to go, I was like, they've got it right. They've absolutely perfected it today. Because they came with such speed. Philipsen nearly, he nearly chops Pedersen because they're coming with such speed from the the left-hand side, and they just, I don't know, they just don't change quick enough, or
yeah, I think that's fair. I think throughout the last 7 kilometers, I was extremely focused on where Merlier was because he's the best sprinter in the race, and I felt like they were attached to Alpecin in some fashion. Because
at 1.3 Ks to go, Merlier and Sturven are just waiting for Alpecin to bring them up. Yeah, and that's what they do.
I swear, if we go back to 6 kilometers to go, Merlier and Stuyven are in Narnia, proper Narnia, but with Alpecin. And then they detach from Alpecin for a bit. They go to the right side of the road. They move up in the wheel of Olaf Koijs lead out, who brings Koijs to the front. Then switch to the Astana group, where Stuyven then attaches on to get to P4 with Merlier with maybe 4 kilometers to go. And then he drops back again, both of them again through the middle in the last 4 to 2 kilometers to once again, like you say, with 1.4 kilometers to go, be back in the wheel of Alpecin. So I think their plan was, if you can follow Alpecin, they've been the go-to lead out with a proper train throughout this entire race, be in their wheel, because then you're pretty certain you'll be in a decent position. But when Alpecin moves through on the left, Patrick, and I know you've got the footage in front of you, am I correct in saying that Stuyven follows it perfectly, but Merlier gets stuck in between a barrier and someone else, has to almost use his head to push a rider out of the way, to then get back to the wheel of Stuyven, maybe in the wind a little bit, before we get into the last kilometer?
Yeah, Russo, just with about 1K to go, Russo, he just tried to move left, and Merlier had to do a big effort. Pedersen and Bauhaus then get into the wheel of Phillips, and Sturven's right there. And Alpecin, Plancart just can't go long enough to keep the speed high enough. And they've got 2 with Philipsen, and Sturven saves this sprint for Merlier. Now, you're saying why? He's not leading him out directly. What Sturven does is trigger MVDP to launch 5 seconds earlier than he wanted to. And because Sturven comes up, he stretches the left-hand side, which is where Merlier was on. MVDP has to jump because he's triggered at 450, and he can't get to... He can't get from 475 to 150.
Yeah.
Philipsen does not have the speed that if he's dropped off at 200, he's going to keep everyone who's in his wheel from winning. And so it's too long for MVDP. He looks back, he does a good lead out, but he gets jumped. I mean, Philipsen has to jump it. Yeah, I just looked 220. It's just too early. And Merlier's in the draft for another 50 meters. I mean, what is that? A second and a half, 2 seconds? Yeah, Merlier's in the draft for way longer.
Almost boxed in a little bit with 300 meters to go. I was like, can he find his way through? But the road is wide enough that some sprinter will try to go around on one side and a gap will open up, and that's kind of what happens. But I also feel like Merlier opens the gap himself a little bit.
Yeah, he levers Pedersen out of his way.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll let you continue.
Pedersen yields it as well. But yeah, Philipsen just left on the front too early. I think Philipsen actually did a really good sprint to finish where he finished. I think it's pretty impressive. Coy and Merlier were in the draft way longer, but Merlier wins. It opens up. Fratan got him back up to speed. Coy he was boxed badly. He comes late, but he's not able to come over Merlier. Philipsen was third, which I think is, as I said, pretty impressive. Binny fourth, Fratan fifth, Turgis sixth, Cantor seventh, Russo eighth, Pedersen ninth, Hubart's another nice top 10. There was a nasty crash. Pretty disgraceful sprint like parkour. I've been saying this for ages. The most dangerous sprint parkour is not the ones with sharp corners. It's not the sharp corners that they have to brake for. There is a very high frequency of crashes when there is a change in level, and we did have some flattened speed bumps here, but you do see when Merlier goes over the speed bump at, I don't know where it was, but I think the speed bumps did get flattened, but there's a bend at 425, 400. And it's not a bend they have to brake for, it's a fast sweeper. And what always happens is the guys on the outside get pushed wide and then try to come back in. And there's guys on their inside coming out because people are getting pushed out of the bend. They come together, bang, crash. You want to see the same replay of this? Stage 3 to Dunkirk in the Tour de France last year.
True.
Go watch stage 3, the finish of Tour de France stage to Dunkirk. 2 bends, they move, wave left, wave right, bang. High speed crash, 70 k's an hour. So to me, it's worse than a corner.
What do you mean it's worse?
A high speed bend is worse than a corner.
I don't want a 90 degrees bend with 300 meters to go either.
Why not? Slows the speed.
Well, because people are going to dive bomb the corner.
True. And
we've seen crash in similar situations. Ironically, the first stage that I can think of with a situation like that is, I think, stage 2 or 3 of the Tour de France 2010, which maybe not the most recent one that I can think of, but it's one of the most recent ones where I saw a crash like that. But that being said, I think my take on sprints are pretty simple. I think we live in an era where it's sometimes harder to find a completely straight run into plan a sprint stage, but I think in today's example is also the rule is now official, eh? It's not just a organizer's guideline that the final straight needs to be straight anymore. It's now a proper rule in the UCI rulebook. So I assume that's going to be taken in more, but it's also still saying the finishing straight, and 400 meters to go for me is not the finishing straight.
Yeah, I don't know what a finishing straight is.
So yeah, there we are.
So they relegated Van Mechelen.
Really?
Bro, he barely changed his line. What are we talking about here? Van Mechelen's been relegated for chopping Gaviria, but Van Mechelen's he's on the white line. He gets pushed. He follows. I mean, okay.
That's bullshit.
What? How is that a relegation and not Pedersen?
That makes no sense.
It's because he crashed someone.
Yeah.
But
that is complete bullshit.
Gaviria's moved out into him. Gaviria's, I'm not victim blaming, but Gaviria's moved out. Gaviria was not following his line around the bend, and that's why you can't have bends in a sprint. Because they follow the natural line of the road, but then people get pushed out. Anyway, big crash. Points jersey. Pedersen's on 357 points. Binny's on 317 points. So there's a 40-point gap. Yesterday it was... can I do maths? 45. So it's not going down by much because Pedersen keeps winning these intermediate sprints. Philipsen's on 311. Merlier's on 307. If Merlier had gone for a few more intermediate sprints, not so half-heartedly, he'd probably be winning green. He might still win green. It's possible. But yeah, as I always say, it's silly not to compete in the intermediate sprints in the start of a race. You never know what could happen.
Yeah, if you win 3 sprints, that's 210 points in total. So that's
a lot.
That's a lot of points, especially for a system with 70-point sprints.
And if he'd had an acceptable result of a top 5 yesterday, he'd be second.
Yeah. I still don't think he'd win it if he went for the intermediate sprints, though.
Probably
I think
not.
it does help a sprinter like Merlier to skip an intermediate sprint.
Yeah, some of them he also was getting dropped. He was.
That is true.
Tomorrow's stage. So that was an exciting stage. GC, no changes. Everyone's on same time after the crash. Teams classification, Trek still leading by 24 minutes. Tomorrow's stage, I mentioned the teams classification for a reason. From Dole to Belfort, 206 kilometers. And speaking of the Dole, many teams will be asking for a handout here from UAE Team Emirates saying, please, sir, can we go in the breakaway? Will you give us this chance? Because it's flat for 150 Ks, that's 3.5 hours. Then we have a category 3, 5K, 5%. Then a short descent in the Ballon d'Alsace, 9Ks, 6.8%. Descent of about the same. And then from there is about 15 Ks to the finish of false flat downhill. To me, the intermediate sprint's finally placed a bit deeper into the stage.
Yeah.
It's 140 Ks in. This screams little Trek break with Pedersen, Scoins. Pedersen, yeah, maybe Scoins. G West, Simmons, Vatsek. I think they're going to go for Pedersen.
Yeah, I think if the stage is 160 kilometers, then there's a chance that if break formation takes too long, that Tadej Pogacar and UAE say, I might as well go for it. But on a stage of 200 plus kilometers and the intermediate sprint being so far suggests to me that Trek will definitely not control the first 130 kilometers of the stage for the intermediate sprint. That's not happening. So joining the breakaway, trying to make the delta with the other sprinters as big as possible. We will see Philipsen and Biniam most likely counter that by joining the breakaway themselves with ideally 1 or 2 rollers on their side. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic in that breakaway as well. But I obviously don't see Biniam and Philipsen winning the stage. I do see a possibility of a little Trek winning with a rider from the breakaway, but I'm always captivated by EF on stages like this. And I'm looking at Baudin, even Carapaz, even though it's not the hardest climb in the world, right? It's 9 kilometers, 6%, or am I inventing that?
From the break, it's pretty hard. I mean, there's a 9% kilometer 3Ks in. It is hard enough that if Carapaz goes full beans, Pedersen's getting put on a proper gap. Now, the problem is you've got a descent. That's why it's an interesting stage. From there, it's 30 Ks to the finish. Okay, there's a descent where maybe they stay level, but then it's a pedaling downhill where if Pedersen's able to, or not even Pedersen, let's forget Pedersen. I don't think he's going to survive it. I don't think he's climbing that well. Let's say Vatsek and Simmons, they stay together and they finish that climb 30 seconds behind Carapaz. Can they come back?
Ooh.
The Raul Garcia Pierna with a Frigo, with a Steinhauser. Oh, he's on Carapaz's team.
I don't know. Is it weird that I'm more leaning towards Baudin and Carapaz on a stage like this? Because there's not enough mountains for me to shout Carapaz.
Baudin's a good shout. Baudin literally won this stage in the Dauphiné Stage 1.
Wow, there were a couple more mountains in that stage, but I agree.
Were there? Oh, yeah, there were. Wow.
It was a pretty hard stage.
Decathlon, unbelievable stage that day. Unbelievable. They did the UAE Stage 9. They just faced full gas one. Baudin's going to have PTSD. He's like, why are people chasing me, but then letting the break win? Please stop that. Lenny Martinez is in GC.
Yeah, he tried getting the break 2 days ago, though, if I recall.
Yeah, that's not going to be allowed.
Johannesson joins the breakaway.
Yeah, who's the
Not the
GC?
perfect stage for him.
It's a good one for. I think it's good enough.
He's got the teammates though that if he's got enough tug buddies to join the breakaway, then oh la la, you know.
You're right. This looks prime for Johannesson. Sean Quinn will be.
But he's
in the
not going to
break.
win the stage. Johannesson can't win stages. That's his issue. A rider of his profile should win a stage at a Grand Tour pretty comfortably, but he somehow always managed to get second
Yeah.
or third.
Sean Quinn is still 15th in GC.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Sean Quinn in the break, I say. Sean Quinn to get into the top 10. That's what I want to see. I think Q365 are going to defend Pidcock's top 10 and Ineos are going to not allow. I think we're going to see some top 10 GC shenanigans in break formation, plus the points jersey shenanigans. I think it's going to be good, interesting.
I think so as well. What's your pick?
Give me Ramses de Bruyne.
Ooh, I picked him on the pre-race for this stage. So that's an interesting pick. I'm going for Alex Baudin.
You know who would win this with one leg? If he would... Prudhomme. Prudhomme is fucking stomping.
He's jailed Patrick with all success.
Bro, Piganzoli, he's too far in GC.
Parepandre though?
Valentin, yeah. Valentin Parepandre. If I know a small guy that can get in the break on a flat start, it's him. Wait, who'd you go?
I went for Baudin.
Baudin. I go to Bruyne. Anyone else?
Good pick, by the way. I think De Bruyne is a solid pick for this.
Yeah. Trek will be top 3 somehow with somebody. But I think
Johannesson will try to be in there.
He can't win. They'll mark him. He'll have to ride for his... It's like what happened on the Basque Country stage. Everyone will make him ride for his GC.
Yeah. I don't see it possible for Vocek to win. That said, Vocek looked weaker the last couple of days than he did in week 1. Like, the intermediate sprint yesterday where he lost the wheel of Simmons, somehow that shouts to me that... Or maybe I'm just blind as fuck.
You know who I needed an attack from today on the hills?
Remco.
Yeah.
I knew you were talking about him.
Especially just when UA and Visma went to the back because they were like, oh, nothing's happening. Imagine the panic.
Are we overrating the impossibility of UAE accepting Visma in the breakaway by being in it themselves with Wellens or something?
They've not been doing that, but maybe tomorrow they will. They've not been doing that. I don't think Wellens can win. Famous last words. I think McNulty definitely could because he's also, if he gets a gap on you on that descent off offside downhill, he's gone. I was thinking they'll pull for a Del Toro sprint.
Yeah.
No,
only if break formation is super long.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they do that? Do you think we didn't discuss the booing discourse? Do you think
the who?
Like the booing discourse?
The airplane.
No, not Boeing. Booing.
What are you talking about?
Boo.
Oh. That I did not see that in what you were saying.
You can't see sound unless you're like Rain Man. So
there's also Boeing discourse if you want to talk about that.
I don't know anything about Boeing. So that's been the discourse the last couple of days because Pogacar got booed on the jersey ceremony, maybe when he won on stage 10, and then I assume he's been booed or UA been booed here and there on the course throughout the last week.
I think everybody should boo everybody.
Well, Pogacar did say, "Hey, there's a lot of riders around me. They could be booing the other riders."
That's a godlike take. I love that.
It's like, I'm not sure you believe that, but Vingegaard said if you want to come to the race and don't do that, stay home if you're going to boo. But
I disagree. I think you can boo everybody.
So people coming to the race, right? If you go to a New York Mets game, sorry to bring it back to the Mets. So there's been a lot of booing.
Everybody's booing the New York Mets. They're shit.
So there has been a lot of booing discourse about the New York Mets. Do you boo? Do you not boo? When you go to the game, I've literally never been to America, but I still participate in this discourse. And I do find it strange that you pay money to then go to a game between the Mets and another team and you boo your team, even though, because they are... Yeah, I find that strange. I would rather vote with your wallet and just not go to the games. People going to the Tour de France, the French public, I don't know how many of them are UAE Team Emirates. Like, that's why they're there, to see the UAE Team Emirates.
Yeah, I don't think so
They're
either.
fans of the Tour de France.
And also, I think they're hyped about Paul Sixas competing.
Yeah. So they're fans of the Tour de France, and the reason they're booing is it's their belief, not mine. It's their belief, or perhaps they don't like the great institution which they love. It might not just be French fans, but the great institution which they love, being dominated by the UAE Team Emirates and everyone that's there. So that's probably, it's not like, the same when you go to like boo your own football team. On the other hand, like, I do think it makes a difference. I think it makes it more likely the break wins tomorrow.
Oh, you're trying to spin it.
That's why I began this. I think it has an impact.
I think we saw that 2 years ago. No, not booing, but
last year even.
There was in-peloton criticism to UAE that expanded, and eventually that led to a stage that UAE should be pulling to not be pulling. But I don't think tomorrow's that stage. I think tomorrow they won't pull. They will pull, but not for the stage win. I think they'll only do it if they see that 100 kilometers into the stage, the gap is a minute because break formation has only just ended. If that happens, they should pull. If the break forms 40 kilometers in, I don't expect them to pull. I expect them to initially keep it at 1 minute and a half, 2 minutes, and then eventually let it out. That's my expectation.
We'll see. We'll see.
You don't believe it at all. You're like, my sweet, naive co-host.
I think they want to get Del Toro a feel-good present after getting shelled 2 days ago.
Mate, he had his feel-good present on day 2. If he needs a feel-good present every time he gets shelled, I'm sorry, but
if you need one, I don't know. I just think it does have an effect. Although, did Team Sky win as many stages? They were getting piss thrown on them.
Yes, they didn't.
Allegedly.
Well, I do believe there was piss at some point.
You reckon?
I don't fucking know. I wasn't there smelling it.
Yeah.
Gladly.
But like Team Sky were hated by it, right? Or am I misremembering?
And to be fair, if you get Dutch beer thrown at you, you might as well be pissed. So.
Is it because they were beating Bardet and Pinot?
No, it was because of the overall dominance.
But they weren't that dominant when you look back.
Compared to now, sure. But in that era, Chris Froome started the Tour and I was like, okay, it's wrapped up first mountain stage.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, it's
every
crazy.
Year.
Quintana
His competitor was Nairo Quintana.
Quintana could have won the Tour every time easily, except for some of the parkour were ridiculous. But if they just did the hard pacing on the multi-mountain stages, they were cracked for him every time.
Yeah, every time. The way the Team SkyTrain took control and basically nobody attacked on mountain stages. And when they attacked, Wout Poels would head to the front and just roll at a tempo that they stayed like 10 meters behind and eventually catch that rider again. They were in complete control of every mountain stage.
No, but you do the Visma 23 strat on Froome in the teens, it would have crushed him.
Well, we'll never know.
They had the team too. Nelson Oliveira, you start paying.
Team Sky was objectively the stronger team then.
No, I think Quintana had one team. Let me bring it up.
What is bro yapping about? Yapping about?
When did he come second? 2015? Let me see this. By 1 minute 12. Let's have a look. What was the on stage 19, he already dropped Froome there. And then there was another one. Have you recently taken a look at the parkour of the Tour de France in which Wiggins won?
2012, right?
It's 2011.
2011, sorry,
yeah.
of course.
2012?
Yeah, you're right. Belter was 2011.
Evans was 2011, yeah. It's crazy.
So many time trials, man.
Yeah, I think that Movistar team, it looks great. It looks perfect to like smash.
Yeah, Movistar team was stronger, you're right, in 2015. I agree with you, actually.
I'm not sure if I agree with myself.
That's it? Why?
No, it's not stronger.
Vasil Kirienko was still a pretty fucking good rider, you know?
In 2015, I'm capping. That Sky team is unbelievable.
I was looking at the wrong year, my bad.
Yeah, that Sky team clears it. Let me have a look
Pete
at...
Kenyak, Richie Port, Wout Poels, Ian Stannard, Thomas Lucra. Yeah, I'm sorry, but
Yeah, not even close. But still.
what was the Movistar team in that year? Quintana, Winner Anacona was pretty fucking goated. Castroviejo, Dowsett, Jose Herrera, Erviti, Izaguirre, Jorca.
Why do they have
Valverde? Good
5
striking.
rouleurs? No, they have no climbers.
Wait. So Mallory and Dowsett are clear rouleurs? Castroviejo in that year was also clear rouleur.
Erviti's 80 cakes.
Erviti was definitely a rouleur.
He climbs well for one, but he's a rouleur.
But who's your fifth one? Herrera and Anacona were climbers. I think we're at 4, but still, your point stands.
Castro's a do-it-all, but he's like, you don't need... When you have Castro, you don't need...
Yeah, but he wasn't a do-it-all in 2015, if I recall correctly.
a climber then.
Oh, he was actually pretty good. I thought he was worse in that year.
No, Castro's always been mutant, dude. Castro's so good. Most underrated rouleur ever. Wasn't he coming like top 10 in Tour de France mountain stages? he was like pocket. He was like rouleur climber.
Was from the break, right?
I don't know.
Has to be from the break.
Anyway, I think we should do like a War Games revision. And I think Movistar, yeah, they could have beaten Froome Sky easy every year. Because carbs weren't invented.
Why? Do people really need their team previews on the off season? What if we just every podcast review a full Grand Tour?
Yeah, review a Grand Tour where they went wrong.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Instead of the Tour Down Under.
Because like the Sky Train, it was. Yeah, it was pacing also not that hard. That's the point.
But it paced what it needed to pace to control what was ahead of them.
Yeah, people attacked instead of pacing harder.
Yeah.
They should have paced harder early in the stage because Chris Froome didn't eat carbohydrates.
I still think you're underrating the Team Skytrain.
I know. I mean, I love that 2015 team is
the what's compared to now are like a lot lower compared to now, but in that era, that train was pretty mutant.
That 2015 team is cracked. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Okay, look out for Leopold Koenig. Recap of his role in 2015.
Wasn't he gone for a while? Or was that in Shausti? I think in Shausti was missing for a few years. Anyway, that's a whole other story.
You're not thinking of the Astana Dutch guy?
Nah. That's another story. Westra,
yeah.
No.
I think. So I don't want to misspeak and be disrespectful.
What are you looking for?
No, Louis Vestre, he actually passed away. It's a very sad story, so I didn't want to misspeak. I wanted to clarify that. Okay. Sorry to end on that note, but thanks for listening as always, and we'll see you with a recap of the maybe breakaway stage, maybe Del Toro sprint win tomorrow. Until then, ciao.